Uddhav Thackeray's MLAs are now headed towards Varsha, the Chief Minister's residence. They were lodged at St. Regis Hotel and now they're headed towards the Chief Minister's residence for a key huddle. This comes on the backdrop of a 3-page bombshell that's written by Eknath Shinde, where he explicitly spells out the reasons to why this rebellion has resulted in a huge divide and a breakaway faction of the Shiv Sena, onto why Eknath Shinde decided to leave the party and right now oppose the leadership of Uddhav Thackeray. He said it, spelt it out extensively in that 3-page letter. He says, and I quote, "The doors were closed for us to Varsha." This is exactly what Eknath Shinde claims, that the doors were closed for many Shiv Sena MLAs in Varsha. In fact, he says that only preference was given to the NCP and the Congress. No preference was given to the MLAs of the Shiv Sena who came from far and wide, from different village areas, districts, to come by to meet with Uddhav Thackeray. They were asked to stand for hours outside Varsha. They were not given prominence. They were not allowed inside immediately. Rather, no attention was given to the party members itself. All the focus was on pleasing the NCP and the Congress. This is exactly what Eknath Shinde says. He further says that many works within the constituencies of the Shiv Sena MLAs were pending because even here, party funds were given, or the government's funds were prioritized for the NCP and the Congress leaders. Shiv Sena leaders, Shiv Sena MLAs barely got any government funds. They barely got money to fund works within their constituencies. They were sidelined. He also further goes on to claim that whatever proposal that was put forth before the ministers who belong to the parties of NCP and Congress, they always struck it down, sidelined those proposals, never allowed for work to happen within their constituencies. And therefore, the trouble was that they were not able to answer their own constituency people, their own voters, as to why they were not able to deliver their work. Their commitments, they were not able to complete only because NCP and the Congress never encouraged them, struck down their work proposals, and therefore this hindered their work and development within their own constituencies. And then further goes on to talk about Aaditya Thackeray and the kind of prominence that Aaditya Thackeray got. He also very clearly, explicitly writes about Aaditya Thackeray's visit to Ayodhya, saying that many senior leaders of the Shiv Sena were opposed and stopped by Uddhav Thackeray to go with Aaditya to Ayodhya. The reason still unknown, but Eknath Shinde, of course, the man who has been harping on the fact that Shiv Sena has deviated from the true ideology of Hindutva, this point really comes as something that may have really affected him real hard. Not being allowed to go with Aaditya Thackeray to Ayodhya may have really come as a huge setback and a disappointment to senior Sena leaders. Mustafa Sheikh, who's joining us to elaborate a little more on that. Mustafa, point by point here, we're looking at Eknath Shinde and his leaders, all of them in consensus, have put out this 3-page bombshell where they've written explicitly on the grouses they've had with Uddhav Thackeray, on the disappointments over the last 2.5 years of the tenure, which is why they've finally broken away. They've spelt it out in detail. Give us those points that really truly express the emotion of the rebel camp, the Shinde Sena.
Well, there are two things to note, Nabila, is that one of the MLAs, Sanjay Sirsat, has written this letter to Uddhav Thackeray, and he has started this letter by saying that it was first time that the common man was allowed inside Varsha. Just behind us, where we are standing, it's the Varsha bungalow, which is the official residence of Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, who this residence he left last night. What Uddhav Thackeray and people close to him kept saying for last 2.5 years is that due to COVID and because Uddhav Thackeray had a heart ailment, then in last year November he had to go through a surgery, so he was not keeping well, his immune system was not well, hence he was not meeting a lot of people. Being that first Eknath Shinde had said that because Shiv Sena is deviating from Hindutva, they have now rebelled, but as the letters come out, now the Sena MLAs are expressing their concerns against Uddhav Thackeray, and it's what people tell us is that maybe the operation of Shiv Sena was such that they were not able to do it in front of Uddhav Thackeray. They had to break away, go to Guwahati and then highlight all these concerns which they have. One of which is as they were not allowed to go to Ayodhya, the letter mentions that they had checked in, they were taking a flight to Ayodhya, but Uddhav Thackeray had called Eknath Shinde and told that these MLAs should come back. One of the reasons is that because the legislative council elections were going to take place and Uddhav Thackeray didn't want any cross voting to happen in Shiv Sena, he had called them back. What Sanjay Sirsat has also highlighted is that while ministers and leaders of other parties were allowed to meet Uddhav Thackeray, his party MLAs were not allowed to meet Uddhav Thackeray and highlight their concerns. So that's one of the reasons which earlier Eknath Shinde had also mentioned, saying that other parties like Congress and NCP are becoming stronger at the behest of Shiv Sena, who is in government. The third point to this also remains is that people who are close to Shiv Sena were saying that Uddhav Thackeray had given some leeway to other ministers from other parties because he thought that the government may collapse, but he had not thought that the government will collapse from the within. So there are different concerns specifically against Uddhav Thackeray. If you look at the nepotism angle, why that Aaditya Thackeray was made the number 2 face, people in Maharashtra were saying that if Uddhav Thackeray steps back as CM, it would be Aaditya Thackeray who will take up the chief ministerial post. Inside Sena workers always knew that in 2005, back in 2005, when Raj Thackeray had broken out from Shiv Sena, at that point of time the hierarchy of Shiv Sena, the High Command had decided that no other than Thackeray family will remain at the helm of these affairs, because if you go to rely on a second person, then the second person will break away. And somewhere that has happened with Eknath Shinde. Eknath Shinde became powerful and he had some hold over Shiv Sena MLAs, and he has now taken these group out. And what these MLAs are now saying, that it's not the Eknath Shinde has led the rebellion, it's these MLAs who have asked him to lead this rebellion so that they can form the government of their own. Back to you.
Right. You know, at any point has Eknath Shinde spoken about his stance at this point, that he's going to stick by it, that he wants to possibly float a separate party? Anything on the next course of action that's mentioned in that letter?
Well, till the way things have panned out, it looks like Eknath Shinde has planned everything, what his steps are going to be, and hence he has not mentioned it in the letter, but what sources are telling us is that the claim to government will come soon, because it seems like Eknath Shinde has crossed that 2/3 party MLA's requirement to avoid the anti-defection law, and soon he'll be, if Uddhav Thackeray is not relenting, that he'll be approaching the governor soon to stake the claim on the Maharashtra government. And if Uddhav Thackeray is called upon by the governor to prove majority on the floor of the house, it looks unlikely that Mahavikas Aghadi will be able to do so. So yes, it seems like a well thought of effort. What insiders are also telling us is that it's not only the Maharashtra government, but it's likely that Eknath Shinde will stake claim on Shiv Sena as a party also, and hence most of the people who are now going to Eknath Shinde as people who are their names are coming as surprises. For example, Sada Sarvankar, who has been a Shakha Pramukh of Dadar. So he has been a known Sena loyalist from an area in Mumbai which is the birthplace of Shiv Sena. That person has also jumped the ship. So his son, for example, is a corporator in the BMC. So these are things which are panning out. It looks like it's not only the government with Eknath Shinde wants, but it also wants to be at the helm of the affairs of the Shiv Sena as a party. Back to you.